Today's JJ Redick podcast is brought to you by Belvedere Vodka. Produced in one of the world's longest-running distilleries, Belvedere Vodka is the world's finest all-natural vodka. Crafted by a collective of master distillers, Belvedere is made with non-GMO Polish rye, pure water, and no additives. Recognized for quality, Belvedere was named the ISC World Vodka Producer of the Year in 2015, 2016, and 2017. Enjoy a delicious cocktail with Belvedere Vodka today, and remember to always drink responsibly. All right, let's get started, Tommy. This is your second time on the pod. I really appreciate you guest hosting with me.
Thank you for inviting me to your beautiful home.
We're recording this in the pool house of the rental that I've had for the month of July out here in the Hamptons. It's been a nice month with the family, and one son is napping, one son is running around with dinosaurs. So the pool house seems like the quietest place to record.
What's your overall letter grade on the Hamptons after a month?
A plus.
It's lived up to the hype.
You know, it's interesting. I think there were a lot of preconceived notions that I had and that my wife had about the Hamptons, and the reality has been exactly opposite. It's like it's the most chill, relaxed sort of vibe. It feels like small town Americana, granted through the lens of huge multi-million-dollar homes. Not the one I'm renting, but I mean, you get closer to the beach and it's just insanity. Anything, I wish I had started a hedge fund in like 1991.
You just got into the wrong line of work.
I missed that by 27 years.
Well, the one thing people don't realize about the Hamptons, if you haven't been, is there is a ton of farmland.
Oh yeah.
So it is very rural at parts. Like you think you're in the middle of the country. It doesn't look like you're on Long Island.
Right. You go out to Sagaponack and it's pretty much all farmland, and these farms are protected. So you get to see this amazing view. You know, there's a street in Sagaponack called Hedges Lane, and you drive down it. It's a east to west street. So you drive down it. You look north, and you see potato farms. You look south, and you see potato farms all the way until the Atlantic Ocean.
So you've become very familiar with the potato farm landscape.
Yeah. I'm looking at a house today. We're doing some showings today on Potato Farm Road.
So how much have you gotten to follow? Before we get to these mailbag questions, how much have you gotten to follow the rest of what's been going on in the NBA?
Despite the fact that I would consider this month as I'm training, but it's also, family vacation time. My wife is upset at the amount of time I've spent on Twitter, but it's NBA July.
This is just the world we live in now. You just can't get off Twitter. You could be anywhere. You could be in.
Today the Kevin Love extension, like you got to, that happened today. Last night, Tobias Harris, the news about him turning down an extension. So just always news in the NBA. So I've definitely followed along all month long.
A lot of good questions. Thank you, everybody, for sending these in. Trellin McCoy, we're going to get started with. JJ, when players get traded in a similar fashion to DeMar DeRozan, does that affect players' perception on that franchise's management and whether they would ever play there?
Most players at this point in time realize that, everybody says this is a business. And then you look at what happened to DeMar DeRozan, and you've seen that so many times. So you have, it's interesting. You had sort of two ends of the spectrum there. You had one player in that trade who was trying to enact some sort of control on his career by getting out of his team that he was on. And then you had another player who had essentially pledged his loyalty. I mean, DeMar DeRozan is from LA, and when he was a free agent a couple years ago, had an opportunity to go sign a max contract with the Lakers and return home. And he said, I'm a Raptor for life. I want to be in Toronto. This is my city. And, then within, I guess, a year or two, he's he's traded.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So I think most players understand this business thing. Jared Bayless, my teammate this year, his saying was, the game is the game, and if you're a player, you have to understand that you are not the one in control. You are not the one in power. The owners, the GMs, the teams, they have the power. And so from my perspective, I think from most players' perspective, and this is why I love, and I spoke about this 2 years ago, this is why I love what Kevin Durant did in going to Golden State, is you should look at your career as sort of squeezing out every ounce of money, joy, winning, team, whatever it is you prioritize, squeeze that out.
Yeah.
Because there's so much you can't control. When you have an opportunity to do what you actually want to do, you have to take it.
And you set your own personal priorities and then make
right.
decisions.
For everybody's priorities are different.
Yeah.
Everybody's priorities are different.
Were you, so the thing that DeMar got on Instagram got really worked up about right after the trade was that apparently the Raptors management had lied to him, that he had asked them and they had said, you're not getting traded. Yeah. So does that mean anything?
That doesn't mean anything. When I've been traded once in my career, and I'll give you the condensed version of basically a 5-month period. So in the 2 weeks leading up to the trade deadline in my last year in Orlando, Rob Hennigan and I had numerous conversations, and he was very honest with me and transparent. And he said, we're exploring options. We love you, but we're going to do it in whatever in the best interest of the team. The day of the deadline, he tells my agent, we're not going to trade JJ. I get that news with about an hour to go before the trade deadline. We get on a bus. We go to the airport in Dallas. We get to the airport. I get traded. I was like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. Then I go to Milwaukee, right? And for 2.5 months, I have John Hammond and Herb Cole, the owner at the time, telling me how much they love me and they covet me and they're going to re-sign me and blah, blah, blah. And then I leave after the playoffs and it's crickets for 2 months. I literally never heard from John Hammond again. Not even a text or a phone call. So, I literally, and this is why like agents sometimes will tell players like 5 months before free agency, oh, this team's interested. They might be able to, until there's a contract presented to you, until the trade deadline has passed, like nobody's word really means anything. Everybody's acting in their own self-interest.
And by the way, it's like similar in a lot of industries. That's not just basketball.
Exactly. That's
real
life.
estate. That's real estate. Until you close on your house in the Hamptons, it's not your house.
But here's the thing. I think I don't want to. Generally speaking, I say really positive things about athletes.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something negative. There's a lot of athletes, and probably at times in my life and my career, I've felt this way, where you get the sense your head gets a little big, and you think you're special, and you think that everything revolves around you,
and you're not special.
And you're not special. It's like I said this the other day, but my dad used to tell me all the time, like it's not always about you, and I've had to keep that perspective my whole career.
So Nick Foster wrote in, he had sort of a nice follow-up question for this. What's the correct attitude for fans to have towards player autonomy? As fans, how should we resolve the tension between the NBA as a source of entertainment and the NBA as a business?
Oh, that's a really
good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot. I'm going to dive right into it because I do think there is a racial component to this. That when a player, and a lot of professional athletes are African American in football and basketball, I use those two as the main example. But when a player tries to sort of enact control in his career, Kevin Durant goes to the Warriors, LeBron, D Wade, and Bosh all team up.
Particularly in the NBA.
Yes, it seems like there's a lot of backlash. When white owners and white GMs primarily, when they make a trade that they deem in the best interest of their organization, they don't receive that same backlash. Why is that?
I'm curious what I have many opinions on this, but I'm curious what yours are.
No, I had Bill Rhoden on my podcast 2 years ago, and he wrote a book called $40 Million Slaves.
Yeah.
It's a New York Times bestseller. I'm not going to go where he went, and I'm sure anybody can sort of get the inference I'm getting at. And I don't want to go there because I do recognize how blessed we are and all that, and there's no way I would ever sort of equate anything to actual slavery. But I think there's an underlying, as we see all the time in this country, there's an underlying racial component to perception about athletes, and that's just reality. And I think for a fan, sometimes it's hard to step back. It's like every time there's a work stoppage in any sport, right? The overwhelming majority of fans are upset at the African American athletes.
Yep.
And not the rich white owners who are squeezing every last dollar they can, who are already profitable and who are already rich.
Yeah.
Again, there's a racial component to this.
Well, and not to veer too far off topic, but there's one of the most interesting things that LeBron has done over the last 6 months is this thing where he's basically just like, I won't shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
And so that's a thing it's been a big thing, obviously in basketball, but then also in the NFL with everything, with not just with Kaepernick, but with Malcolm Jenkins and Michael Bennett in Philly and all these other guys. And it seems like different fans of different sports have different takes on this, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, do you think the NBA fans are like more progressive than football fans?
Well, yeah, in a way, yes. But I want to go back to one thing, because you kind of just mentioned this, and I know Nick in his question used the word entertainment. And so I think that's where I understand where a lot of fans are uncomfortable with athletes taking control, with athletes speaking out, because we are a source of entertainment. And in the same way that, people really don't care to hear Tom Cruise's Scientology views, they just want to go see Mission Impossible. Is that accurate?
They just want the product. No, it's true.
Right.
Not just Scientology. They don't want.
Yeah.
There is a thing with like entertainers speaking about politics. Like, we don't care what Bruce Springsteen thinks about Donald Trump. We just want to hear his music.
Right. Even though his music
Yes.
is very much political.
It is funny though, with one entertainment parallel for a second. Do you remember like 10 years ago or so, there was the big TV writer's strike?
Yeah.
So like basically what ended up happening was there was a television writer's strike, and a bunch of super popular shows were off the air for like 6 months or so. Like, in that time, even though the writers and the entertainers basically had like, they definitely needed to go on strike because they weren't being paid well enough. There
was a lot of other things other than pay, though, too.
Other than pay,
it was benefits,
like
health insurance. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
All kinds of different things. Like, the fans still sided with management. They were still like, just get out there and like we want Friends, we want whatever the show is. Like, get out
Modern
there, just
Family.
Shut up and make the show. And so it is kind of interesting that people side with management in issues that don't affect them, but then if it's their job, they're not
pleased with management.
They're not going to side with management.
Yeah, exactly. It's the conundrum.
Yeah.
It's the conundrum of capitalism, I guess. I don't know.
And the thing is that this will not be the last time we talk about this on this podcast, because this issue is not going away.
It's not going away. It's not going away. It seems like it just becomes more and more prevalent every month. Like, clearly the NFL anthem issue is not going away, and it won't go away until white people understand what these players are protesting. Like, there's still a headline. There's a thing going around on Twitter all week about this headline. I can't remember. It was from a major publication, but it was talking about how the players are protesting the anthem. They're not
protesting the anthem. They've been super clear about this.
People need to sort of understand the issue. And again, some of it is sensationalism. Some of it is, how Twitter works and just the insular nature of that. But this issue is not going away. And to all the fans, like I will say personally, like I understand sort of the entertainment aspect of it, and I do take that very seriously, because I understand, how much people have to pay to go watch a game, how much people are paying for League Pass, how much people are paying for cable television to watch TNT, whatever it may be,
and that it is a distraction from things going on in life.
I get that. I actually I'm sensitive to that, but I also would say this. Why, because I'm an athlete, or why, because LeBron is an athlete, why does that not give him a right to speak out about issues, but it gives, Joe the plumber, why can Joe the plumber talk about things? Why does he get to talk about politics on Twitter, but LeBron can't?
Well, that's also, it's the obvious sort of hypocrisy there is our president. I mean, not to go, we could spend 3 hours talking about this, so we won't do it. But Our president is a reality TV show host, an authority on politics, and a professor. And LeBron James isn't. There's not really any different. I mean, there are actually a lot of differences, but it's it's an unanswerable question.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some other things.
Okay.
Some Philadelphia questions. Shane McNichol. This might be my favorite question we've gotten on this so far.
Is this the fart question?
Who's the best, worst farter on the Sixers? Thank you. Parentheses, note, I figured this goes well with the butt wipes ad read. And parentheses. Shane.
Do we have butt wipes
Shane,
ad reads?
please send in a question every time.
Yeah, Shane, thanks for the question. That's an easy answer, but he's not on the Sixers anymore. He was part of a early season trade, and then we traded him at the deadline. Trevor Booker.
Interesting.
Trevor Booker.
It was noticeable.
He caused some chaos on buses and planes for sure.
It's a veteran move.
Yeah, that's a vet move. Yeah, when you're like a 10-year vet, nobody really can do anything. Let's talk about Spartan. With over 60 races around the country, it's easy to find one to commit to as long as you leave your excuses behind. Spartan is an obstacle course racing company with races for every athletic ability and skill level. Starting with the 3+ mile, 20+ obstacle sprint, all the way to the 12+ mile, 30+ obstacle beast, any racer can find what's right for them. You work hard, you push yourself through the weekday grind with grit, discipline, and determination. Bring that same grit and determination to a Spartan race near you. Let it propel you through hills, climbs, and carries. Will it be easy? No. Will it be worth it? Absolutely. Sign up for the best weekend meeting of your life and race alongside fellow Spartans like Randy Moss. Excuses don't live here. Find your Spartan race today. Visit Spartan.com/JJ for an exclusive offer to find a race near you and view training and nutrition tips. Dollar Shave Club delivers everything you need to look, feel, and smell your best. You name it: shampoo, conditioner, body wash, toothpaste, hair gel, even a wipe that'll leave your tush feeling tingly clean. My 4-year-old loves the wipes. By the way, my 2-year-old, every single time
Trevor Booker loves
every single time we change it. Like we got one diaper rash, and so we put a lotion on it, and every time now that I change it could be a change diaper after pee, it doesn't matter. He goes, lotion, more lotion.
I think they found a pitch man.
All right, I'm a big fan of their amber and lavender calming body cleanser. I've never smelled anything like it. All of Dollar Shave Club's products are great and made with top shelf ingredients that won't break your budget. Plus, shipping is free with your membership. And here's a great way to try a bunch of Dollar Shave Club's products. For just $5, you can get their daily essential starter set. It comes with body cleanser, One Wipe Charlie's, their amazing butt wipes, world famous butt wipes, their world famous shave butter, and their best razor, the 6-blade Executive. Keep the blades coming for a few more bucks a month and add in shampoo, toothpaste, or anything else you need. Check it all out at dollarshaveclub.com/Redick. That's dollarshaveclub.com/Redick.
Noah Roberts wrote in, hey JJ, have you and the rest of the Philly locker room given Ben Simmons a hard time about getting involved with the Jenner-Kardashian dynamic? And is Joel jealous Ben has a celebrity girlfriend?
Okay, so the Ben Kendall fling. I don't
relationship.
Okay, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm not currently like on TMZ or watching a ton of E! News, but that whole thing has sort of happened post playoffs, and so we weren't around like the team, so I can't speak for everyone. I can say a little story. So a few weeks after the season ended, I was at my house. My wife was in Tulum. She was flying back that day. And I was watching my boys. It was like 6:00 in the afternoon. And I got a FaceTime on my phone from one of our mutual friends, Doug Rosenberg.
Worldwide Dougie.
And people that listen to this pod probably know Doug Rosenberg because Doug knows everyone.
Impossible to describe.
Right.
He's just worldwide Doug.
So FaceTime from Doug, and generally speaking, when I get a FaceTime from Doug, he's with Ben because Ben and him are close and they hang out a lot. So I get the FaceTime from Doug. I accept the call, and Ben and Doug's face pop up, and I immediately recognize where they are. They're in my neighborhood in Dumbo. They were by the Chase Bank. So I was like, hey, dude, they're like, don't you live in the neighborhood? And I'm like, yeah, you're like 2 seconds from my place. I was like, I gave him directions to my house. I can't give directions on air.
So it was less.
Yeah. So I gave him directions to my place. So like 5 minutes go by, there's a knock on the door, and I answer it. And I thought it was just going to be Ben and Doug, because that's all I saw on the FaceTime call. And in walks Ben, Doug's boy, or Ben's boy, and then Doug, and then there's 2 girls in the hallway. I don't immediately place them. I don't recognize them. And the first girl walks in and she's like, hi, I'm Haley. I was like, nice to meet you, JJ. And then the second girl is kind of hanging out in the hallway and she doesn't really want to come in. And I'm like, you can come in. And then I realized that it was Kendall Jenner. And so they all kind of came in the apartment. And that's when I realized it was Haley. And Haley and I have a mutual friend, Ben Winston. And so I was like, oh,
Haley now recent Justin Bieber fiance.
Which I do know that. I do know that. And so anyways, they just like kind of hung out they kind of hung out in my apartment for, 10 minutes. And
that's when
I was like, all right, I got to give the kids tubs. So I knew before TMZ knew.
So you could have made a lot of money if you gave if you gave Harvey Levin a call.
And then Ben and Doug FaceTimed me like 20 minutes after they left, and they were just laughing so hysterically. I bet you didn't think we were bringing Kendall over.
Isn't it funny? You escape LA and you never really escape it. It's always this. It just follows you around.
And then 24 hours later, the Brian Colangelo story broke. So it's like
it was a good 36 hours.
Maybe it's me. I don't know.
You've had that with other teammates dating big celebrities before. It's just part of the NBA. It's like it's just part of the deal.
Yeah, it is part of the deal. I don't think there's because there is an element of like maleness, masculinity in a locker room. That's just reality. And so like guys will like talk about, I got a DM from so-and-so.
Yeah.
And, I might see her in New York. And so like, it kind of happens all the time. And, and then, if 2 of them end up at One Oak, I don't even know that. What's the best club in New York now? I don't know.
Not One Oak.
Okay. Not One Oak. But so if 2 of them end up at any of those places, in New York or LA, like chances are it's gonna be on TMZ the next day or any of the Instagram feeds.
And then what also happens is there's spottings. Like they'll be walking out at the same time. And people will infer whatever they want to infer.
Right.
And the players smartly just don't respond. And so the thing takes on like a life of its own.
What do you think? What is the spot in LA? Like Craig's? Like if you're gonna like go on a date with someone famous, but leave at different times.
So Craig's is one of these. Craig's is good food. So Craig's is still a good spot. Craig's is like a place you go if you're meeting with like the owner of your team, or you're meeting with. It's like a place you go with like an older white person. Basically, it's like an exec spot.
The Hollywood Big Dicks.
Yes, the Hollywood Big Dicks go to Craig's. Yeah. Delilah and Nice Guy, where your teammates go a lot, are still. Those are like trendy spots, but they're fun. The guys that run it do a good job, and they're very like they dress them up like old Scorsese movies. Like the inside looks like Goodfellas, and like so they're cool. Soho House is always still. I mean, Soho House is like a classic spot. You got the best view in the city.
I'm going to interrupt real quick. We're going to get to the next question in a second, but I do want to apologize to about 500,000 people. Everybody in Indianapolis. The last pod I did, or 2 pods ago with Victor Oladipo.
With Donovan.
It was Donovan. Yeah, it was Donovan. Yeah.
You were taking a lot of shots.
Yeah, I took some shots at Indianapolis in that pod, and I apologize. I feel really bad about that because it's a nice city with a lot of just wonderful people. I mean that it's a lot of wonderful people, and
it is. And
I shouldn't have. The easy answer would have been to just kind of maybe talk about an overrated big city that everybody loves, like Miami. But I like Miami. Yeah. But I shouldn't have said that. And I would. Indianapolis is fine. It's great.
It also has. Indy has some good food. Indy's like I spent a decent amount. Yeah, that's St. Elmo's.
Steak and Shake started there.
There's a ton of White Castles, which isn't great, but like there's some stuff to do in Indy. As someone who does not travel in the same stratosphere as you, but been to a bunch of NBA cities, Indy would not be. It'd be like right in the middle.
Fair enough. I think too, like for every player.
I mean, I don't want to say it's Donovan, but Utah's like that's.
Well, I also got flack because like people thought I was trying to set up Donovan to talk bad about Utah. Like I'm not an idiot. Like I'm not going to get Donovan to talk bad about Utah.
Trash his own
like my brother lived in Utah. I visited him in the summer. I love Utah. Like Utah's a great place.
Utah's a beautiful place.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
they have a great crowd. Like it'd be a great place to play every night.
Yeah, the crowd's crazy.
Yeah, so like that. My intention was to ask him that question as a warm up, so that then when I asked him, well, what city do you hate?
Were you getting a lot of shit
I did not expect him to throw out Philly and Boston.
Which is a great answer, by the way. That tells you that he's Donovan off the court is going places. It's the best possible answer you're going to give.
That's great.
Were indie people giving you a lot of shit for this?
Yeah. Well, like, and then it like came out that I was in talks with Indy. So then like, it was like a week after the pod came out. So like, yeah, some of the indie, the Pacer blogs had a little reaction to it. I almost signed with Indy. I mean, I was an hour away, 2 hours away. I mean, I was very close. I had a 5 p.m. deadline because they were, basically, and it was like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon when Philly changed the offer.
Which would have been, and it's interesting to think about now because Indy's good. Indy's going to be good next year already.
Yeah.
And if you've been on that team, it's
they ended up getting Tyreek, which is a great signing. He's a fantastic player. But yeah, it was
Victor. He
had a whole conversation with Nate McMillan.
Victor could be one of the best players in the East next year. I mean, already he was like,
yeah, he's great.
He's great. He's good. He's great. It's interesting though.
We'll get him on the pod soon.
He'll come on. One more Philly question: who'd win a dunk contest, you or TJ?
Me or TJ? Ooh. So TJ's probably more of a one-trick pony. He's gonna jump off his left foot.
Does he have a good one though?
And dunk with his right hand.
Does the one-trick work?
He's either gonna jump off his left foot and dunk with his right hand, or he's gonna throw the ball up, catch it off his left foot, and dunk with his right hand. So he's got two dunks.
How often is he doing it? Is he throwing them down in warm-ups?
No, but he did. He. So there was like a low minute game. I gotta. If somebody hasn't posted this to Instagram or Twitter, I might post this when the day the pod comes out.
I don't think anyone
because like we had a low minute game towards the end of the season. So like the guys that played under 20 minutes the night before, played basically 4-on-4 full court. So it was like Markel and TJ and Luau, and then some of the interns that played either D1 or D2 or D3 ball. Like they play with those guys whenever we play low minute games. And TJ yammed on somebody.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you remember who it was?
I do.
This footage needs to come out.
I'm not gonna say the guy's name, but I'm gonna put the video up the day this podcast comes out.
This will break the NBA internet.
No, TJ yammed on somebody. So I have the video saved to my phone. I'll post it the day this comes out.
Drew Chalesky, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Bill Simmons had Denzel on last week. They talked about the Hoops Classic he got game. Would you rather A, have won a national title at Duke, B, been cast in the
Where is this going?
B, been cast in the Jesus Shuttlesworth role with Denzel playing your stepfather. Everything else in the film remains the same, including time spent with Rick Fox and friends. Great addition.
Yeah.
Make sure you consider the fact that you would have easily been the coolest white player of all time without breaking a sweat, instead of being tied with every other white player ever. One spot behind Jason Williams and one spot ahead of Brian Scalabrine.
Ooh.
Drew, bringing the heat.
Ooh.
This might have
I'm going to contest Drew on the all white players are created equal other than Jason Williams and Scalabrine. There's some variance there.
I agree.
For the second level.
There's definitely some variance.
Yeah. I was going to say something that Kyrie Irving once said to me, but I'm not going to say it. So
next.
Definitely win a national championship at Duke. However, the time spent with Rick Fox and friends, I will pass over that. But Rosario Dawson for me was she was like my celebrity crush for years.
Yeah. After that movie or before?
No, just every role she's ever had. 25th Hour with Edward Norton.
Oh yeah, I mean her IMDb.
Yeah,
she's just go down the line.
Yeah. I still think she's a beautiful woman. She really is, and just to be friends with her after that film would be awesome.
It's funny with He Got Game. I think we're gonna have Spike on this pod at some point.
Yeah.
He definitely wants to do it. The movie came out in 1998, and it was 5 years before LeBron was drafted or anything like that. It completely foreshadowed a lot of the stuff that he would go through. My like sort of cinema hot take is like if He Got Game came out now, it would be like I don't know if it would win Best Picture, but it would be a movie that was like getting a lot of love with critics of like, oh, they've captured the zeitgeist of like the young black kid in New York who's facing all kinds of, and it just came out at a time that people didn't really think that way about young athletes.
Yeah.
Like the music in that movie is incredible.
It was ahead of its time. It's a movie that has aged particularly well.
Yeah.
Wedding Crashers is a movie, the opposite end of the spectrum. That has not aged particularly well.
No.
With the hashtag Me Too.
No.
You know,
there's a lot of comedies that are not.
I
was just in Vegas.
The
Hangover.
premises of so many
Hangover
comedies, you couldn't even release them now. And good. I mean, you look back at like Wedding Crashers and you're like, holy fuck. Like, there's some stuff in there that just makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's one of those things you watch now and you're like, okay, there are funny parts, but
no, but He Got Game was it is aged well. It's a very
Did you listen
rewatchable.
to the Denzel pod?
I haven't yet. My brother did. Well, he was just here this weekend. He listened to it. He puts it up there with like he loved the Scooter Braun pod that he did with Bill.
Scooter's the greatest.
And so like he said Scooter and Denzel are like his favorite two that Bill's done in the last year or so.
Well, Denzel is just crazy intense. Like my favorite moment of the whole thing, the pod was probably an hour or something like that. And Bill asked him this like super long-winded question about Malcolm X, about the movie Malcolm X. And Denzel's like, yeah, I don't really think about it that much. He just is like, he's one of those people that is like, he's just is so, but he's in a good mood. Like he's not sulking or he didn't want to get out of there. He's a huge NBA fan. And he knew he was super pumped about the LeBron thing. But he just wanted to keep it moving. And
I love it.
And it was great.
I love it.
All right, we got a bunch of NBA questions. Mitchell Roy, as an aspiring young coach, I wanted to know what are some of the qualities you've found your favorite coaches and assistant coaches to have throughout your career, and how were they able to make a positive impact on you?
The word positive, I think that's a trait that every coach that I've really enjoyed being around has sort of exuded, and that's been the overwhelming sort of characteristic of their personality. There's just so much that happens within a season, whether it was at Duke or in my time in the NBA. It's not. There's a difference between being super positive with positive energy and like pushing people and being a yes man. I'm not saying like yes men positive. I'm saying like just coming to work every day with energy and positivity. I mean, I look back at like my time in Orlando, great example, Steve Clifford. Okay. He was our assistant coach there for 5 years under Stan Van Gundy. And like, he was just such a pleasure to be around every day, even in like Stan's darkest hours. Like we always sort of had Steve.
Went back to Steve.
Yeah. We had with Steve to go back to. Billy Lang this year for Philly, Chris Collins at Duke, a guy that I haven't even played for, but who I love, Adam Harrington, who was with the Brooklyn Nets.
Great
like
reputation.
He has just this positive energy about him. I just love being around Adam. I love talking hoops with Adam. So like it's just people like that. That's honestly who I gravitate towards the most, because by nature, our sport has so much negativity in it. You need sort of those uplifting personalities to help you stay even keeled.
Matthias Campos, great question from Paraguay. Fans in Paraguay. Hi,
Shout out to the listeners in Paraguay.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Hi, JJ. My name is Matthias. I'm a Sixers fan from Paraguay, and I've always been a fan of your game. Name the 5 NBA players you would take with you to survive on an island.
Okay. All right. I probably will I'll gravitate towards people I know and teammates or former teammates. Chris Paul and LeBron, first 2 guys that come to mind. Smart, resourceful.
They don't cancel each other out?
No.
2 alphas?
No. I think LeBron would be the alpha, and then Chris would be the
number 2.
The number 2, the lieutenant. I would say we need some comedic relief. So I would bring Joel. I do worry that his personality may rub some people the wrong way.
That to be number 3.
Specifically Chris and LeBron.
Specifically the other 2 people on your island.
But
friction isn't a bad thing.
No,
I need
laughs. I need laughs. 2 more. Let's think. Man, I would say Mike Dunleavy and Spencer Hawes. This is the thing about Spencer Hawes.
This is a weird island.
Dude, you could take... I need Mike there because Mike's like the guy who like... If Chris is like doing something that is just annoying, like Mike's the guy that's like, hey man, like we need to talk about Chris.
You can't do this.
Like, what the fuck's going on?
You need the other person who's just mentally on the same page as you.
And then Spencer is great because Spencer he is the ultimate chameleon. Like he just fits in with anybody.
Everybody.
He has such like an even personality. Like the last 2 summers when I've done my guys trip, like he's been the first invite because he's
gonna fit no matter who you invite.
It's just great. Like any group of people, like he's great. We went to Tokyo together. This past year we did Nashville. He's the best. That's my group. That's my group.
What do you think of that island, Adam?
Looking back at my selections, I'm actually a little concerned about the dynamic. I think there's a couple people that might kill themselves or kill each other. But one might kill himself. But it would be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can.
There's more to that question.
We can change that list.
There's more to that question.
Marshall from Cincinnati. Besides the Sixers, who else do you think had the strongest off seasons this summer?
Besides the Sixers, the strongest off seasons, Golden State for sure. LA. I mean,
was the Boogie thing surprising?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because I had a similar mindset to DeMarcus going into free agency. I knew it was going to be a weird market. I knew there was only a set amount of cap space going into it. And if your retaining team doesn't want to, or your incumbent team, I should say, doesn't want to re-sign you or not giving you a contract offer that you want, then you have to go out and get a contract offer. And so in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, if something happens where, I can't go back to Philly and the market dries up, what do?
Yeah.
You go get the taxpayer mid-level from the Warriors, the Celtics, like whomever.
A team that gives you the best chance to win.
Gives you the best chance to win. And by all accounts that I've read, that market sort of dried up for DeMarcus, and he's coming off an injury, so there's no rush for him to get back. It's kind of a perfect situation.
It's also crazy that it's not like he turned down $20 million a year to go do this. It's like if as a common sense thing, if you're anybody and you get the same amount of money from a team where you are likely to win a championship, or at least the favorite to win a championship, or just the sort of team in the middle of the country that you've no connection to.
And it also fills a need. Here's the thing, though. He came out and said, this was the only contract offer I got, right?
Yeah.
He said that.
He said that publicly.
Yeah. So,
and no one has really disputed that.
So
it's not like
if
other
the
teams
best contract you get is from the Warriors, you would probably you would take that.
Even teams like the Lakers that were rumored to be going after him, they even said like we didn't offer him anything. Yeah. So it's kind of weird. It's a weird thing to blame.
I wonder sometimes like when a signing like that happens, not necessarily like the Durant signing because he went and got a max or close to it, but like a signing like DeMarcus, like do other teams think to themselves, oh, we could have had him had we, just actually given him an offer? Like, because I think sometimes like teams, they psych themselves out and they're like, they price themselves out of the market.
Think someone else.
Well, this guy's, well, it happened with me a little bit too. Like, I mean, I had offers, but there were some teams who would be like, yeah, we're interested, but he's just going to go back to Philly, right? Like, he's not leaving Philly, right? Why would he leave Philly? And so like, then if I had gone somewhere else, we
could have got him.
We could have got him. Yeah.
Well, that gets back to what we were talking about at the beginning, which is like players, they always need to think about, they have their priorities and with DeMarcus, it seems like the Warriors fit a bunch of his priorities. Like that's it. It's a simple decision.
The way free agency moves now relative to, I don't even know, like, well, use 2010 as an example. So like everybody waits on LeBron to make his decision. And so those first like 9 days of free agency were so slow.
Yeah.
So slow. And LeBron, I think, could have waited, but it doesn't. Like you saw it at midnight on July 1st. Like out of the gate, you had like Doug McDermott signing,
PG,
Will Barton going back, PG. So you had all these deals happening like this, and so teams, agents, players, everybody's sort of reacting on the fly to that. And again, so that's why I say like the DeMarcus thing doesn't surprise me, because in the back of my mind, I had already gone through every sort of scenario. Okay, if I get this on a 3-year, I knew Philly was only going to do 1. Or if this team, I don't want to go to that team on a 1-year, but if they did a 2-year, or that team's doing a 2-year, but if they did a 3, you're going through all these scenarios. Or if there's nothing, then I'm going to try to go play here. So you're doing that before July 1st because you have to be able to react like that.
Well, 12:01. It's like it's all going down.
Yeah,
you could see it on Twitter. You don't have to be involved in the league at all to just know that things are just happening. Were you surprised at all about Paul going back to Oklahoma?
No, because he's a CAA client and I'm a CAA client, so I had known he was going to go back. But I don't know. So no,
it's more. It wasn't even that. It's more just like it's funny with the Kawhi thing now because like Paul had said when he got traded last year, in June of last year, it's like I'm going to LA. So whoever trades for me, just know right now I'm only going to be here for a year.
Yeah.
And then Sam Presti did it, and they made the case to keep him, which is impressive. It's a really impressive thing by the Thunder to make it happen.
Right. So here's my whole thing with like a player trying to force his way in a certain area or saying publicly like this or that. Like, I think inherently players want to enjoy going to work every day and to build real relationships with teammates and coaches and GMs and owners and fans and the community. And so like that to me takes precedence over where you live, because the season you're home sporadically.
It's moving. Yeah.
You're on the road for 2 weeks, you're home for 2 nights, you're back on the road for 3 nights. You get to live wherever the heck you want to live. Like I said this to my agent prior to free agency, like, just so we're clear, buddy, like I can live in Brooklyn for 5 months out of the year, 4 months out of the year, depending on how long the playoffs go. And then the rest of my life, like my career is more important. So I think guys are more attuned to finding a good fit where they say, okay, I'm going to have a role that I like. I'm going to be around people that I like. I'm going to be play for a fan base that I like, and I'm going to enjoy doing my job.
Yeah.
And of course, like the X factor always is money, but like if you can get all those sort of things, and then a 4-year max contract with a 4th-year player option, then you go back to OKC.
Go and do it. That's it. This is a good question from Stefan in Phoenix. What young player do you think is going to take the jump this year, a la Oladipo last year?
So Oladipo one is interesting. That's a weird example to me because he had sort of played 4 years and everybody had sort of said, okay, this is who he is as a player.
Yep.
And then he took this huge jump. And then there's like the 1st and 2nd year guys that make big jumps. I think a guy that can make a big jump is actually I would say 2 because I like both of them, like Gary Harris and Jamal Murray. I think both of those guys have like potential to be all-stars. Granted how they play and because they're in the same backcourt, maybe they don't put up like Oladipo numbers, but like those guys to me are really good. But I would say like if we're looking at like pure like statistical production and a jump, Markelle Fultz. I think Markelle, by all accounts that I've heard from both externally and internally from the Sixers, like he is progressed and he's in a good place mentally, physically. I think he's going to have a fantastic season.
Yeah, I hope so.
Trust the process.
Spencer Roach, JJ.
Do you have somebody for that, by the way?
For the young player that's going to make a jump? I think it's going to be. I like the Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray's great.
Well, because I think that team's going to be really good.
Yeah,
and I think that he already has been good. So it's not that he's making the jump from being a guy that's like a mediocre player into someone that's a superstar. But I think that if they're like the 3 seed in the West or something like that, in like a stacked Western Conference, like people are going to start to be like, oh shit,
Like Jamal
this guy's
Murray,
actually,
and he's 21.
Yeah, he's 21 or 22. I mean, he came out after he was a freshman at Kentucky.
Yeah, he's really good.
The problem is going to be with that conference is like that conference is just insane right now. I mean, it's a great time to be in Philly because
Jamal Murray, I say this every time his name comes up.
Jamal Murray's the one that
he's way more athletic than I realized.
He's the one that got you, right? He's the one when Omar from House of Highlights was on. We were like, the only time that JJ made House of Highlights was when Jamal
It's fine. It's
stuck
fine.
his nuts in his face.
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
It was great for the pod. Spencer Roach had a good question. What are one or two things NBA players use to work on from a analytical standpoint that maybe a commonplace fan isn't realizing you guys are doing to stay fit, work on your game, etc.?
I think most guys are paying particular attention to their body, recovery, sleep. Like I know guys that are doing like pH levels on their blood. Like there's all sorts of things now. And that's another reason I think guys are playing longer is because we just have more resources. We have more information. Like we can use that however we want. And the players that tap into that have seen the benefit of that. From a skill perspective, like I think most guys have communication either with their agent, coaches, front office, whatever, about ways they can improve. And because both agencies and front offices are so analytic driven now, we have like used to get a shot chart, like here's where but that was sort of misleading. Now you can get every single bit, like on this particular play that we ran, when you went left and you took one dribble, you shot 45% from 17 feet. When you took two dribbles, you shot 37%. So you either need to make it a one dribble move, or you need to do something with that second.
Do you think
so? Like you can break it down so specifically now.
Do you think young players are now coming into the league and understanding this, or it's taking them a little bit of time to figure it out?
Here's why I don't. If you'd asked me this 5 or 6 years ago, I would say young players don't understand. They do, and I'll tell you why. Because all of these guys have these basketball trainers, like Drew Hanlon and Chris Brickley.
Yeah.
I use Ross and Tim Burns. Those are the guys, brothers Ross and Tim Burns. That's who I use in New York. And like I know Ross and Tim, like they're literally breaking down my film. They're going on Synergy and looking at all the advanced stats. They're figuring out ways where I can improve, what I'm doing well, what we need to continue to work on. All these trainers are doing this. I know they all are. And so all these 19 and 20-year-olds, it's like this brings up another thing about the posting of highlight.
That's what I was about to ask.
Workout videos.
I was curious what you think
I have a rule. Like I said this to Ross and Tim on the very first day. Like, don't ever post a video of me. Don't even take a video of me. Because if you got somebody in here taking a video of me, they could be doing something else. They could be working on another guy. They could be rebounding.
Yeah.
They could be a screener. Like, don't post a video of me. That's annoying. It's my time in the lab. Like to me, the off season is like private time.
Yeah.
Like I'm working on my game. No one else needs to see it. Because I know a lot of guys that have posted a ton of workout videos during the summer and then have gotten worse over the last 3 or 4 years.
That's the thing. It doesn't seem like there's any correlation between like great highlight tapes. I mean, not to name any names, but we saw this with the Chris Brickley and the New York stuff last. Like you watch these tapes in Manhattan, you're like, oh my God, this guy's going to be a monster this year. Yeah. And then they don't play. And so I was curious about this because it seems like this summer it's gotten worse than.
It's one thing, and Chris has done a great job of his messages and his captions are great. He's uplifting.
Yeah.
Clearly, he's had some success with some guys. More guys are reaching out to him, and I also understand like whether again, I don't want to keep mentioning Chris, but like Chris or Drew or Ross and Tim, like. They're running a business, and so like exposure is great for them, and they're selling a product, they're selling something, they're selling a lifestyle, they're selling whatever it is, and so there's a reason to do it. But what has happened too, like and the guy who trains my body, like my trainer in New York, like we always joke about it. Because we'd be like, did you see so and so post the video of so and so, like the exercises these guys are doing? But it's like, to me, it's like. Of all people, Nick Young had the most sane message about this. And he was like, why are guys posting videos of them working out? That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Like, I don't need to like post videos every day and be like, hey, I'm working hard. Like this. No, this is my job. This is my job. This is like, I don't need, if you work in IT, like you don't need to post, you wouldn't go to work in IT and post videos of every time you have to like do something on a computer.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's self-indulgent.
Of course, but this is
self-indulgent.
This is social media.
Yeah.
This is what it is. I mean, this is, everyone's guilty of it.
Yeah.
This is what, but
I don't post a ton. I posted something the other day on my Instagram account.
Your Instagram's pretty good.
I posted something the other day about I had my kids.
You're on the good end
in the backyard.
of social media.
Like I was having a moment. I'm not gonna lie. You couldn't tell in that particular photo, but the one my wife posted on her private account, like I had a Wave Chaser IPA in my hand. Like, it was just like a great moment.
Yeah.
And I for whatever reason, I was like, I'm gonna post on my public account.
To me, the issue is less about the self-indulgence and more. I always think about this like it's a little different, but like after Moneyball came out and how Billy Beane basically pre-Moneyball, pre-Michael Lewis's book, not the movie, Billy Beane had this formula that no one else in baseball had, and they basically kept winning like a huge amount with a payroll that was like a third of the size of everybody else. And then once Moneyball came out, everyone was like, oh, wait a second. We can just do this and we'll spend more money.
And we'll pay the guys.
And we're the guys. And so then that was the end of Billy Beane. That was the end of the A's and everything like that. And so it's obviously different with players because you can't everyone doesn't have physical skills. So it's not a thing that you can just like any of us can just walk in and be like, oh, I can go do what Jason Tatum is doing or whatever it is because you can't. No. But with that being said, there are a lot of like basketball players that are on the edge basically. And if they see certain things that like, why would you sort of help your competition in any way? That's my question. Is that crazy?
That's why I said it's like being in a lab.
Yeah.
I don't want people to know what I'm working on.
It's like, who were we talking about with people watching you shoot? And you're like, you don't need to know how I do. You don't need to know what I do. Like, you guys figure it out on your own.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a difference. I guess, look, if you're helping a 10-year-old, I went and spoke at a camp today. It was a kind of an impromptu thing, but the guy who's rebounding for me out here in Southampton was like, I'm working at a camp. Can you come speak to the kids? I went and spoke to the kids. But like, if they wanted me to shoot for them, like if I'm teaching them how to do something, that's a little different. But with so much on the line, I don't know. I just look at it like maybe it's just me, but I look at it like I need every single competitive advantage I can get.
Yep.
And it may not, to the average fan, it may not sound like much, but like my secrets are my secrets. I'm only willing to pass them on to so many people.
Yep. We're going to run through a couple quick ones. Kezi, through listening to your podcast over the years, I've gotten to learn about your love for alternative music. I was wondering what your current favorite songs or albums are right now. Additionally, what does the music taste like for your Sixers teammates?
Okay. A lot of Meek Mill for the Sixers.
Yes.
A lot of Meek Mill.
We have three favorites questions, and then we're going to wrap
Dreams and Nightmares. So real quick, on what I'm listening to these days, I went to see Vance Joy. He's an Australian singer-songwriter. I went to see him in Prospect Park in June in Brooklyn. He was fantastic. So I've been listening to a lot of both his new album and his first album. There's another band. There's a song called Ohio from Andrew McMahon and the Wilderness that I'm particularly keen on right now. I'll just go to my playlist I've been listening to. There's also a singer-songwriter from Northern Ireland named Foy Vance that I got into last year that I've been listening to. I listened to a lot of Judah and the Lion. Those guys are from Tennessee. And then, the old classics. By the way, there's a private Killers concert this weekend out here in the Hamptons.
You going?
So we have guests this weekend. I have 2 tickets. They can't get many more, but there's 4 of us.
Oh no!
So we are considering sending the wives home. And just
I think that might be. I think that
my friend going.
I think you might have to do that.
I mean, it might be too much to pass up.
You might have to. Do that. Joel Tome writes in, what books are you reading? I read The Art of Fielding because it was mentioned in your pod last year, and it was awesome.
There was a book my mom gave me for my birthday that I read in Italy. It's called Ordinary Grace. It was a novel about brothers growing up in small town Minnesota in the 1960s. I cried pretty much the whole second half of the book. Would highly recommend it.
Is it new?
Yeah, it's new. And then, I got like I know I shout out Richard Rohr all the time, but like I read his devotional every day. I really, I'm not just saying this. Like it doesn't matter what religion you are, or even if you're not religious. Like I would highly recommend subscribing to Richard Rohr's daily devotional. His perspective, like lately, he's been doing social justice devotionals, politics devotionals, devotionals about the economy, devotionals about Mother Nature. Like doesn't matter what you believe and whether or not you believe Jesus was who he said he was, would highly recommend Richard Rohr.
Something for everybody. That's it for the questions. Thank you everybody for sending in. This is a particularly good good round.
This is fun. I feel like we had some great questions. Like I always say, thank you so much for listening. Very appreciative. Also, thank you for your patience for the weeks in between pods. If you haven't listened to the Missy Robbins pod yet, I would highly recommend that. I thought she was a fantastic guest, very insightful. Love the conversation with her. And obviously the pod before that was the Donovan Mitchell pod. And that's also a great pod. So would highly recommend both those pods if you haven't listened to them yet. Tommy, thanks as always. And appreciate you listening. Thanks for the questions. We'll be back in a couple weeks. Dollar Shave Club delivers everything you need to look, feel, and smell your best. You name it: shampoo, conditioner, body wash, toothpaste, hair gel, even a wipe that'll leave your tush feeling tingly clean. And here's a great way to try a bunch of Dollar Shave Club's products. For just $5, you can get their Daily Essentials starter set. I love it. It comes with body cleanser, one wipe Charlie's, their amazing butt wipes, their world famous shave butter, and their best razor, the 6-blade Executive. Keep the blades coming for a few more bucks a month and add in shampoo, toothpaste, or anything else you need. Check it all out at dollarshaveclub.com/Redick. That's dollarshaveclub.com/Redick.